Body horror is a fascinating genre, and when done to perfection, nothing can be more terrifying. Cause while a more conventional horror movie such as It Follows will have you looking over your shoulder, fearing the inevitable monster will infiltrate the intimacy and sanctity of your home at night, there is nothing as sacred as an individual's own body. When body horror is done well, it can disturb that feeling of sanctity and intimacy. And if there's one thing scarier than the prospect of a monster emerging from the darkness and invading your home, it's the prospect of a monster which emerges from within, eating away at your own guts. This is the horrific reality presented in Coralie Fargiette's The Substance, a body horror film which follows Elizabeth, an aging washed-up actress played by Demi Moore. Confronted with and haunted by her own mortality, Elizabeth tries to fend off the natural process of getting older by subscribing to The Substance, a service which provides an injection which creates a younger, more attractive version of yourself. For Elizabeth, this younger version of herself is Sue, played by Margaret Qualley. Whatever joy and satisfaction Elizabeth gets out of Sue is not enough to offset the horrific side effects showcased in The Substance, a fantastic, near-perfect body horror film which features a harrowing, confronting portrayal of society's obsession with beauty standards and appearing physically desirable. I wouldn't usually delve into the events which occur in any given movie I'm reviewing, but the first 5 minutes of this movie are a perfect representation of Carell's impeccable use of visual storytelling in The Substance. In the opening scene of the film, we watch through a god's eye view as a Hollywood star is built honoring Elizabeth, and then experience through a time lapse as the star, a symbol of the actress's beauty and success, is gradually desecrated. It is the perfect introduction to the powerful storytelling to anticipate from the rest of the film. A fresh piece of storytelling which far prefers to show than tell. Throughout the 2-hour and 20-minute runtime, cinematographer Benjamin Kraken masterfully directs the camera into the heart of our protagonist, highlighting what's important to her at any moment. As she sits across from Harvey, a TV producer played by Dennis Quaid, the camera draws attention to the crudeness through which he downs each and every shrimp on his plate, irregardless of how much sauce is smeared on his mouth. You could mute the dialogue, and without a word said, you would not only understand the disgust the protagonist feels toward anything which she perceives as a blemish on beauty standards, you also feel it. Yet nothing else evokes a visceral, physical reaction out of the audience as much as the disturbing images of body horror brought to the screen. The pursuit of beauty and desire for perfection is a universal truth which exists in almost all of us, and portraying this on screen will be uncomfortable enough, but Fargiette does not pull any punches in portraying the unforeseen consequences which chasing unrealistic beauty standards can have on our bodies, and most importantly, our souls. It results in perhaps the most disturbing body horror film released in years, one which evokes the classic feel of a David Cronenberg film with even better, more realistic effects. Though the film does a horrifically great job portraying the horrors of the protagonist's pursuit, it also does a great job luring us in to the same attraction and desire for beauty as the protagonist feels. In the scenes when Sue basks in her own regained beauty, Fargiette directs such moments with the same visual pop, commercialism, and delight as a body oil commercial, portraying the search for beauty as a well-oiled corporate-drenched machine which is imposed on us by a profit-driven entity. Though Dennis Quaid delivers a great scumbag performance, the movie rests on the laurels of Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley. And while it wouldn't be fair to call it a two-hander, which might imply the two share loads of screen time with each other, the two actresses each complement each other beautifully. The movie often asks us the question of whether or not the two versions of our protagonists are truly two separate individuals or two sides of the same coin, and while it might not provide definitive answers, Moore and Qualley each capture unique facets of the protagonist which are integral to our understanding of her journey. I'm generally a big fan of Margaret Qualley, and she brings her signature whimsy to this role, which makes her endlessly entertaining to watch. It's rare for me to award a perfect rating, yet this movie came so close to being the first movie on this channel to get a 10 out of 10 from me. With another round of editing and a revised ending, it could have. Instead, the movie ends 15 minutes later than it should have, with the credits not rolling until the movie feels like it's veered off its own roadmap. While the movie up until that point has been far from grounded, the screenplay essentially asks us to suspend our disbelief on one thing, which is to believe that there can be a substance which creates a duplicate younger version of ourselves. That is until the final final act of the film, which jumps the shark and asks us to stretch our suspension of disbelief further than anything else before. And the movie goes from being a grounded psychological film with terrifying horror elements into a full-on monster film which throws as many disturbing images on the screen as it can. Even its portrayal of its protagonist's deteriorating mental state becomes increasingly cartoonish. And though the movie hasn't been exactly subtle up until that point, it really can't help itself but look down at our noses in the final act. Although I will say, in rewatching All of Us Strangers, I did bump up my rating to a 10, so maybe that counts as my first 10 out of 10. Back to the substance, if you cut out the final 15 minutes or so, you will be left with a perfect body horror film. One which masterfully utilizes direction and acting to create imagery which will sear itself into your brain. Not only because of how audacious and horrific it is, but because of how confrontational and honest. It's a movie that holds up a mirror to society to show us an ugly image. So while a perfect horror film would have been nice, I'll settle for a near perfect one. And I'm giving this one a 9 out of 10. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this review, leave us a like and subscribe to the channel for weekly TV and movie reviews. And if you've had the chance to watch The Substance, let us know what you thought about it in the comments below. I'm Cinemike and I'll see you next time.